everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's review, thanks to the team over at Show Z, we're going to be taking a look at the magnificent Mecha MM01 Transformers Bumblebee Optimus Prime. Now for those of you looking to add this guy to the collection, I'll of course be sure to include links down in the description box below, and it's been a long time coming, but as the proud leader of the Decepticons once said,
I would have waited an eternity for this.
As MM01 is hands down the best transforming version of Optimus Prime based on Bumblebee that we've seen, and I think we can call it quits now. This is like the 10th version of Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime that we've seen produced by a third-party company, but you have to crack a lot of eggs before you make an omelette, and my goodness, what an omelette this thing is. Now as we take a look at the details, at first glance it literally looks like the non-transforming 3.0 DLX version. The painting and the sculpting across the board for this guy is just absolutely immaculate. I love the shimmer that we have for the red, the dark gunmetal greys really do help in amplifying some of the sharper details of the sculpt, and we may as well touch base with the LED feature. Now sadly mine appears to be broken. You are supposed to push the crest and the eyes should illuminate, but what I have to do is basically pop off the cap and then activate the switch. You will require 2 AG13 batteries to actually power this guy up, but once illuminated, I mean, that just looks terrific. Really does bring this guy to life, and the attention to detail that we have here for the mouthpiece is just extraordinary. I think the shoulder design looks incredible. I love the detailing that we have here for the ribs. You can see all of that intricate mechanical and painted in detail that we have here for the top. And as we just work our way down here to the legs, I mean, it's just so nicely done. You literally cannot see any transformation joints on this figure at all, and much like 3.0, this figure does have a complete die-cast endoskeleton, which adds a great ton of weight. Even the sole of the feet have been fully painted and sculpted. It's just a work of art. Now as we flip around here to the back, this is the massive selling point for me. This thing looks exactly how it did in the Bumblebee movie, down to the shape of the back of the shoulders, to the cylindrical piece here on the back, the actual spinal detail, all of the intricate mechanical components that we've got packed into the arms. I mean, it's just so bonkers that this guy actually exists. These third-party companies are just pulling out all of the stops to make these characters come to life, and even the shocks here in the back of the heels I think is an amazing attention to detail. Now articulation-wise, Optimus does have a ball joint here at the head which can rotate the full 360, look left to right. You can take the shoulder pads and hinge them out of the way, which is what I would advise to do in order to maximize the shoulder articulation. So we do get a butterfly joint, a swivel here at the bicep, as well as a hinge joint out to the side. This doesn't look the greatest, and due to the way the shoulder is actually designed, you can't really get it concealing this joint, which is unfortunate, but just in a standard vanilla pose, it really doesn't look that bad at all. We do get a hinge joint here at the elbow, which can bend to 90, as well as a rotation here at the lower part, a proper ball joint here at the wrist. Sadly, no individual finger articulation. I know this company is coming out with an upgrade kit that is going to perfect on that, but I do wish we could have got proper individual fingers for this standalone release. We do get an ab crunch, which I thought was really surprising for a transforming figure, and all of the skirt pieces can flex and hinge out of the way to accommodate the range that we get here out of the hips. Now, much like the DLX version, we are dealing with drop-down hips, which are fully cast out of metal, which I thought was fantastic. This allows for the hips to kick forwards that far, so can be booting Scourge into the Rise of the Beasts movie. They can also kick back, I'd say, roughly to that far, hinge out to the sides to an amazing extent. I mean, the articulation on this figure is next level. A slight rotation here at the thigh, double joint at the knee, which can bend past 90, fully reinforced by die-cast, and here at the foot, this can pivot forwards and backwards slightly, rotate left to right, as well as rock side to side. So articulation for this figure is just insane. Such a nicely done release, and if you wanted to, you can articulate the window wipers, although this is more intended for the truck mode, but such a beautiful piece. I mean, just look at him here through the camera. Wow, where are the transformation joints? You have done such an incredible job, Magnificent Mecha, and I cannot wait to see as to what their next release has in store for us.
B127, travel to Earth and save the Transformers franchise.
And now for accessories, and the biggest of which is this enormous display base. As you guys can see, fully painted and sculpted, looks hyper realistic and kind of reminds me of the launch pads that we see on Cybertron when Optimus is commanding the Autobots to flee the planet. I mean, this thing looks awesome and it's definitely worthy of a display base for the MM01. Now sadly there's no LEDs. It would have been cool if these circle sections could have lit up, and it's not magnetic, meaning the MM01 doesn't stand on it the best, but detail wise this thing looks fantastic, and you can just see the standard paint here for the base, so that does just go to show how nicely done that weathered effect is. We also do get included Prime's iconic Ion Blaster, which too has been painted and sculpted beautifully. Sadly no LED function like the Toy World Freedom Leader, but I do believe this is essentially a MechTech port, so we'll holster any blast effects much like the DLX version by 3.0. You can remove the clip to reveal some very nice bullet detail, so I thought that was a pretty sweet touch, although it's worth mentioning that actually cramming it into this trigger fingered hand is an absolute nightmare and near enough impossible unless you actually preheat this first with either a hairdryer or some hot water, so that is something worth bearing in mind. And whilst on the topic of hands, we do get a pair of trigger fingered hands, a pair of slightly more dynamic hands which too have been painted and sculpted very nicely, a pair of command hands which have to be my personal favourite out of the set, and finally the pair of fisted hands that you guys already saw pre-installed fresh out of the box. Also included, although this is more for the truck mode, are a pair of interchangeable smokestacks just to create for a slightly more movie accurate look, although if you want for a more G1 inspired version of Optimus you can also use them here for the robot mode, which truth be told actually doesn't look too bad at all. Now turning to comparisons, here we have the MM01 to what was for the longest time the best transforming version of Optimus, that being Toy World Freedom Leader. And whilst this is still a great figure, let's not take anything away from it, I think we can all agree in saying that the MM01 proportionally just looks way better. The chest is a lot nicer, the arms are way better, I actually think the head sculpt is slightly more accurate here for MM01, and as we just take a look at them here from a side perspective, I mean even here you can just see how the spine for the Freedom Leader sticks out, which doesn't look the greatest. I also don't think the detail for the shoulders looks as nice, and as we come around here to the back, you can instantly tell that this figure is supposed to transform, whereas you'd be perplexed to whether or not this was actually the non-transforming 3.0 version. So I am sad to say for the Freedom Leader that the MM01 is now the best version of Optimus inspired by the film, and also quality wise I think this is a way better figure. I know Freedom Leader had some die-cast, but he had some wonky joints here for the wrists. The chest didn't really like locking into place, whereas this just feels solid. The plastic feels premium, the die-cast adds a great sense of weight to him, and just in all, it is the superior release even in the truck mode. Now here's a pretty cool comparison. We have MM01 compared alongside the non-transforming DLX 3.0 offering. Now proportionally, I still do think that the 3.0 is the better version, especially where the chest goes, but it would take you quite a long time to actually work out which of these could transform, and considering that there is a flat-nosed truck packed away inside MM01, upon comparison, I mean this thing is just absolutely insane. It really does look like a non-transforming figure. Not only is the sculpt work on point, but the paintwork as well. Look at it next to this premium release. It really is just fantastic. As we take a look at them here from a side perspective, incredibly similar in terms of proportion as well as overall design, and I just think the back is really what tells you that MM01 is just such an amazing figure, as it looks near enough identical to the non-transforming 3.0 version. So without a doubt, if you like your Transformers to transform, MM01 is definitely the Optimus to go for. Here for a few other third-party comparisons, we have one of my personal favourites, that being MM01 compared alongside the Monocrat Megatank, also known as a kind of concept art version of Megatron had he appeared in the Bumblebee movie, and they just look so great together. I am praying that this is the Megatron design that we hopefully can see in Rise of the Beast, as I think not only do they pair so nicely from a design perspective, but scale-wise, having Megatron this much bigger when in comparison to Optimus, it just looks sick, and they pair so nicely on the shelf with one another. Here is the Cyber Factory Starstorm, also known as a Transformers Bumblebee MBM style version of Starscream, Bingo Toys Waveman aka Bumblebee movie Shockwave, and finally the Cyber Era Transcraft upscale KO of Transformers Bumblebee. And as you guys can see, I think these guys pair so nicely with one another. It's kind of crazy that they look so hyper realistic to their CGI models, yet both both of them can transform. So the third-party companies definitely upping their games when it comes to third-party live-action movie figures, and we saw a massive step up in the level of engineering for that Metagate Haiku, the third-party triple-changing Transformers drift. So I can only imagine what we can expect to see in a few years' time. But definitely, these are the best transforming versions of Optimus and Bumblebee inspired by that 2018 movie. So I believe that just about covers everything here for MM01 in the robot mode. Overall, a flawless figure for the most part. I think that they've used incredibly premium materials. The paint apps are immaculate. The robot mode design literally looks identical to the CGI model used in that 2018 movie, and it's just Optimus Prime. It's such a sick design in general, and to see something which looks hyper realistic yet is incredibly articulated and that can transform, it's just super impressive, guys. I mean, this thing is the best version of Optimus Prime from that Bumblebee movie, but of course we still have the truck mode left to go, so let's delve into the transformation. Autobots, transform and roll out! And here we have the truck mode. Now this is Optimus Prime. The figure is perfect. I'd say this is one of the best, if not the best, transforming Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime that we have so far seen. Now much like the Toy World Freedom Leader, the transformation for MM01 is certainly complex, although I'd say the biggest difference between the two is that it's actually enjoyable. The design team have specifically engineered certain parts to be risen and lowered, which just completely eliminates any clearance issues, which I think is why the transformation is so enjoyable, and it results in a fantastic looking truck mode, a truck which I cannot wait to see back on the screen once we get round to Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Now in terms of the actual details of the truck, I'd say it's 95% spot on to how it appeared briefly in the Bumblebee movie, with the minor exception of the missing clearance lights here at the top. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is something that I noticed, but other than that, from almost every single angle, this thing looks insane, and surprisingly, my favourite angle of the truck would be it here from a side perspective. This is just amazing to see. I don't think any other B-movie version of Prime looks this good from the side. Definitely not the MP-M12 that we saw officially from Hasbro and Takara, and especially for the side of the cab. I mean, look how tightly compressed those panels are. You really wouldn't think this thing could open up and transform as complex as it really does, and I love the attention to detail of an actual trailer hitch, which has not only been sculpted but fully painted. I do believe that this is completely compatible with the MP10 trailer, so that's also a sweet touch. And I mean, the truck design is just so iconic. This is the G1 Optimus Prime, and even in 2022 it just looks fantastic. I think the paintwork that we have for the front looks glorious. We actually do get some proper articulated window wipers, which yet again, an amazing attention to detail. As we spin around here to the back, unlike MP12, we actually do have compressible cat ears, which really is a game changer, just makes this look so much more refined. Now granted, there is some parts forming required. You do have to switch these out when in comparison to the angled smokestacks that we saw for bot mode, but it's completely optional. So in this case, I'm going to give it a pass. I think the paint and the sculpt work that we have here for the rear of the vehicle looks awesome, and I love the attention to detail of opening up some additional panels here on the underside just to make this more realistic. Just in all, a fantastic looking truck. The paintwork and the weathering that we have here for the wheels looks awesome. The tyres are actually rubberized, and this thing is a dream to roll along the ground. All 6 wheels rolling out in battle with the Autobots. Just in all, such an amazing looking truck mode, and I don't think any other third-party company is going to come as close as this guy to surpassing the design, unless someone finds a way to back on some lights here at the top. So cannot wait to see this guy back on screen to face off against Scourge. So there you have it. That was my review for the magnificent Mecha MM01 Transformers Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. In all, a fantastic figure, one of the best that I've ever reviewed over on the channel, and undeniably the best B-movie Optimus that I've ever taken a look at. This guy is just insane. The robot mode, upon first glance, looks like a non-official 3.0 DLX figure, which in itself I think just speaks volumes of how impressive the engineering is. There are no obvious vehicle mode components that aren't supposed to be on the robot mode design. There's no obvious transformation hinge joints. The articulation for a transforming figure is really nicely done. I have a few qualms in regards to how the shoulders look, but honestly, minor stuff. I do wish that maybe he could have already come with articulated fingers. I know we can expect to see that with an upcoming Cybertronian upgrade kit, but I do wish that was already standard for the figure, and I also wish the display base could have had some light up LED function or just some magnets to really hook him to that base. The transformation, despite it being very complex, I think is so fun and enjoyable. I love how they integrated some extendable joints just so that clearance doesn't become an issue, which, let's be honest, is one of the most frustrating and one of the more popular issues that third-party figures have. So I am definitely glad to see that incorporated. I think the truck mode, for what it is, looks insane. With the exception of not having those clearance lights at the top, it looks near enough spot on to how it appeared in the movie. A solid truck mode to accompany an astounding robot mode, and if you're a fan of this design of Optimus, especially if you're looking for a fully transformable Bumblebee movie display, then without a shadow of a doubt, this is the Optimus Prime to pick up. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Is this a figure you guys plan on adding to the collection? And if it is, be sure to check out the links down in the description box below. I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.